Good morning. So, no, there is one here. So that's me. But I thought, rather than just assume that that intro was enough, and this isn't, trust me, this isn't about me getting off on one, I'm going to say a few words about what my job is, because that might just give you a clue as to why Anglian Water has been able to do some of the things that it's done. So as Director of Asset Management, I have end-to-end responsibility. Strategic asset management, tactical asset management, investment planning. I chair the investment committee with Anglian Water. I procure everything, suppliers and products, to Anglian Water. And you can see where this is going, that I'm also chairman of the JV that delivers 50% of Anglian Water's capital programme. So in other words, I am in a position not only to influence, but to implement this stuff. And one of the things you might want to reflect on as you go through the day, what might that take in your own organisation? Because it isn't just about past 2080, it's about bringing past 2080 to life and alignment within an organisation, and its value chain and supply chain is really important. So, I'm going to say a few words about our story. Now, some of you would be here last year, and some of you will have heard Anglian Water's story. Our story has moved on, so for even those who were here last year, there's some new stuff in there, and I'll have cut some of the older stuff out. It's a story of belief and belligerence once you embark on such a journey, but it's also a story that has authority at the heart, authority to implement change. And it started with a big audacious goal, a demand on ourselves and our suppliers to reduce carbon, simply because by reducing carbon we drive innovation that would reduce cost. That was the belief, and the belligerence followed. So I've got a slide up here that probably is still the only slide that anybody can show you at the moment about the connection between reducing carbon and reducing cost in construction projects, or more correctly, the schemes that as clients we believe we need to build as part of our strategy, as part of our vision. The point is that the belief was 80% or greater would be in that top right-hand quadrant. I actually wanted 90%, and the reason was that not because 90 was an attractive number, it was that there would be a proportion of schemes that would never be in that top right-hand quadrant. And I wanted the resource, the capacity, financial and intellectual, to be able to get the right decision on those schemes, in addition to others delivering the real reduced cost, reduced carbon message. So the part of my madness was to give time and be able to create resource to make the tricky decisions that will have hooked some of us up in the past. So why did we decide to take action as Anglian Water? Well, basically, fastest growing outside of London in terms of population, in the driest part of the country, getting drier, in a part of the country that suffers in particular from flashy storms in the summer, always has done, and they're getting flashier, with sea level rising and 28% of my assets at the low ground level. So if you needed any compelling reason why somebody should show leadership in that, then that's the reason. Now, we could have just looked across the piece, and we could have looked across our competitors and compared with all the other participants, but in reality, that's not where the action was. And you can see the action on the right-hand side of the slide, where that would have been back in 2008. And you know, one of the things that always leaps out in lots of people's memories is Marks and Spencer's Plan A, simply because there's no Plan B. So there's a lot of the things going on in terms of reasoning behind that. This was our equivalent. This was our love every drop. This was our strategic intent. This was us absolutely nailing our colours to the mast and saying, there is no U-turn on this one. We will be the company that takes 50% of embodied carved-out schemes by 2015 from a 2010 baseline, and then we subsequently stretch that to 60% by 2020. In addition, we will be taking out the operational carbon as we went along, and it fitted with all the other kind of things that you'd expect to see in the equivalent of Plan A type messaging from a sustainability and responsibility point of view. So, where did this come from? Well, in 2008, Prince of Wales, through the Business and the Community, launched this May Day Summit for Climate Change. May Day Summit, Climate Change. The difference was, we realised that that could be quite important. And rather than me rocking up as a representative of Anglian Water, I took my supply chain with me. So when we were asked as a table, just like you're sat here today, to make commitments, we made commitments as a collective, as a joint venture. Commitments that by the time we left that day and got on the bus home, because we were on the bus rather than cars, we were making plans to deliver. I didn't have to go back to base, I didn't have to excite others, I didn't have to secure a supply chain on the back of it. It happened that day. Somebody else also told me, do you know what? 80% of your carbon sits in the concrete and the steel that you're choosing to use today. Okay? Don't know what the other 20% is, and you can go and fret about that for the next 20 years, but I've got the 80% answer in my bag. I can start focusing on how we do less and use less in terms of steel and concrete. And that, very simplistically, on the back of a fact packet, if I'm still allowed to say that today, translated into a belief that if I got us, Anglian Water, to ask for something different, and our supply chain to respond, all that would take would be our suppliers moving from 10% no-dig to 80-90% no-dig on the underground, and all we'd have to do on the above-ground assets we build is re-life existing and all move to a lean build off-site type of thinking. That's all we'd have to do. That's all we'd have to do. People ask, what's the silver bullet? There ain't a silver bullet. It's all of that and more besides. And you know what? It's a grind to get there. So I told you what the belief was. The belligerence is then in the grind to make that reality, to make that happen week in, week out, to make sure that we as a client are not over-specifying, overthinking, to be clear that we're actually specifying a need so that others can respond favourably in terms of taking carbon out. And here's some of these schemes that happened over the first 5 years. The first one is just simply a drought scheme in 2012, response to the last drought. Probably some of you remember that. Most people have forgotten, but we do from time to time run dry of water in this country. And that was a new pumping station built off-site, coming to site, pre-commissioned, in an environmentally sensitive area, so it came with brick slips on the walls of the pumping station, tile roof. Even the fire exit lit up when quite simply the thing was plugged in and the electric tails were connected. The difference was that's a 20 megalitre per day building being lifted into place, and it was bloody big, and it came on the back of a wagon. So it shows the change. The next one down is doing it differently. A £24 million scheme became a £14 million scheme, although we were having 30,000 population equivalent to Bedford water recycling works. And we stopped thinking about building new and we started thinking about reusing the existing asset that we had and putting new technology into that in terms of how we aerate more efficiently, create greater capacity, create an output without building huge amounts. We can think differently as well. Over to the right of that, those green kiosks. Those are sampling pillars. Previously they would have been wet trays type things. So I'm going back down to the minutiae now. So we'd have brought a builder on, we'd have brought a plumber on, we'd have brought somebody in to put concrete in as a base. That pillar comes from factory pre-commissioned. It comes with a steel base that doesn't need wet trays to place. So when you go to site, you can do it complete, start to finish, in a day. It's self-contained, so the solar and batteries in there, so it doesn't need the electric supply, etc. So you just imagine what that looks like, and the cost drops out because it's mass-produced, and the operational cost of running it and the capital cost of installing it drops through the floor. You've got something signifying no dig, and I'll probably come back to that one, but the bottom one is an interesting one, because that's the answer that initially came out of, we have lots of storage and lots of reasons for storage in a water company, and traditionally that would have been concrete. It would have been reinforced concrete, and it would have been something that was placed by wet trades on site. We moved to recycled plastics, because that's a way of taking carbon out, and we moved to putting pipe in the ground rather than concrete tanks. Those are quite large, 2.5 metre down, 3 metre diameter pipes that are actually going in. The novelty in that is that somebody said, where's the carbon in this now? We've taken it out of the concrete and we moved to the recycled plastic. How about moving less earth? So they created a semi-circular bucket that was exactly the same size as the pipe going in. So it gives it lateral support without bringing half a hillside in to backfill. But the point is, that woke up the concrete supply to our business, because we were starting to use so little concrete that it made something happen within our supply chain. So this is a scheme moving on to 2017. And if it was just about a concrete tank, which it seems to be at the top of there, that's brilliant, because that was built in record time, using less concrete because it was all precast, built off site, stitched together on site, all the things you'd expect in terms of lean design, lean build, taking carbon out, taking cost out, and doing it quicker so customers get a benefit much, much quicker. However, this won carbon reduction scheme of the year, not because we built a concrete tank, but because the pipeline that was meant to be built to bring water, take water away from Grafton Valley, the largest water treatment works, we chose not to build that pipeline. We chose to use the existing pipeline that brought water in and find a way of reversing the flow under crisis, under emergency, slowing down the flow, turning it round, reversing without causing water quality issues, and to put pumps or boosters to take the water back in that other direction. So a £60-odd million scheme became a £28 million scheme, saving 62% on carbon, and that scheme alone took 16,800 tonnes of carbon off our agenda in terms of what we built rather than didn't build to answer that problem. Something that I'm hugely proud of, but my point is you can't get to that in one go without doing some of the stuff I showed you on the previous slide. So moving on, and so we woke up the supply chain, we've got precast concrete now coming in, and we understand about logistics and assembly, rehearsing assembly rather than design and construct, so we've had to go on a cultural shift. We've also got suppliers going, do you know what? We can take cement out of concrete because the carbon is in the cement. So we can come up with no cement or low cement concrete. Now I would argue that if we hadn't stopped using concrete in the first instance, we'd not be in that position today. And it started off as a trickle. So back in 2015 we had our first supplier. We've now got 5 alternatives knocking at the door saying, we can help you, we can take carbon, we can take cement out of your concrete. And guess what? Each one is better than the last one. There is now energy and support through the supply chain to deliver. As if that wasn't enough, then when you start building off-site, and for those of you who get excited about BIM and CAD and things like that, there's some interesting pictures coming up now. So, end of the first AMP period, 2010-2015, that we set out our stall, we were building stuff on site. We were specifying and building standard product. And we were building water treatment works that you would not have recognised from 5 years previously. And that's what that photograph shows. Reality is 40-odd% reduction in carbon. Reduction in cost, only 40-odd% reduction in carbon. My belligerent says you haven't achieved your 50%. And by the way, we're about to go beyond 2015 when it will be 60%. So what are you going to do about it? And the guys in our supply chain, in Act 1, flipped it. He said, Okay? If that's the best we can do through building off-site, where is the carbon left in what we just built? And they looked in the ground. And guess what? How long did it take to come out of the ground? That tree was actually flew up. It flew up in weeks. But to get it out of the ground took months. The reason why it took months is because of the infrastructure that we've traditionally asked for to be buried and to be below ground. So that's where the carbon is. So we need to do something about that. So the next generation of works, only a year or so later, we've got SEMA works, and that has less underground asset. And the one that we've just built up in Hartlepool has got next to no underground asset. I still look at that with a degree of discontent, because I look at that standard product and I ask the question, when that came to site and you bolted it together, is it fully commissioned? Has each section been pre-commissioned and therefore all I have to do is assistant commission when I bolt it together? The answer is not quite. Why? Well, we're still pouring concrete to support laterals in the bottom of those tanks and things like that. Stuff that could be done off-site, done more efficiently, done with less carbon. So there's always more we can do. But once you've started the journey, you find those things come to you in terms of your choices. And just in case you thought it was all about above ground, it isn't. It's about below ground. And again, the world of BIM or CAD has come along here, where we can put whatever scheme, whatever pipeline that we are thinking of building in seconds on something we call GeoPLM, Product Lifecycle Management, what we call rather than BIM. And we can overlay every single piece of data that we have about areas of outstanding natural beauty, contaminated land, archaeology, all the things that cause you not to be able to go directly from A to B with a pipeline. And within that room and within ours, we can design out all the stuff that has cost carbon and cost money in the past. So when people are going out of that room after only 12 hours, 8 hours, efficiency, then they're going out to disprove a concept that is already pre-designed, as opposed to going out to design something that has just emerged as an idea. I reckon there's 3 months saving in the design process there, in addition to actually going straight to the heart of route and construction technique, which is where the carbon is. And if you think it ends there, it doesn't, because a company like ours becomes emboldened by that. So it's found a way of delivering carbon reduction at lower cost. I focus on the embodied, but the operational carbon is following. And we said to ourselves, in the same way as that's being delivered cost beneficially, how can we now set ourselves a big, audacious goal of carbon neutrality and think about delivering that on a cost benefit or cost neutral basis? Because that's the thing that gets boards excited. Not presenting with a problem about how do you afford something like this, but giving them a solution that's very attractive and showing them how we will get there in stages, using what's available today, but then using innovation that isn't quite there. And our first focus is quite clear about renewables in making that first brave and bold step. So back to the world of the Green Construction Board and the support that has been given to others going on the same journey. So we linked together the report that was about reducing construction in 2010-11 to an infrastructure carbon review in 2012-13. The question that was asked was, okay, if we want to embark on that journey, how do we go about it? Why something like this could be important, the sort of opportunities it creates for you in your business. And there's always a helper's hand. I mean, I am happy to host anybody back in Anglian Water to show you some of the things that have been done, how it's been done, etc., just to help you get over some of the things that you might need to do and people you need to persuade back in your businesses. Thank you.